People don't rip other people's arms off.
SpongeBob Squarepants is the most iconic character in Nickelodeon history, and the show itself has given us so many fantastic characters, and they've changed a lot over the years. Which got us thinking, how did their original portrayals stack up on the morality spectrum back when they were first introduced in Season 1? Hey guys, I'm Brad with Wicked Binge, and these are SpongeBob Season 1 characters, good to evil. As usual, we'll be starting with the most pure and noble character, and working our way down to the most evil. These characters are the good. Taking the gold medal of good in Bikini Bottom is Sandy Cheeks. When you need help, you can count on Sandy. The first time we see her, she's fighting a giant clam. SpongeBob tries to help, and he gets caught in the clam's mouth while Sandy escapes. She then went back to save him, someone she hasn't even formally met yet. Later, she gives SpongeBob and Patrick a way to survive in her tree dome. In Sandy's rocket, even after SpongeBob and Patrick capture everyone, she still tries to help them realize what they're doing before things get worse. In Nature Pants, she works with Patrick to bring SpongeBob home. Later in the season, Muscle Bob Buff Pants gets some fake muscles so that he doesn't look wimpy. She continues to help and support him, even after he accidentally outs himself. She also wastes no time in wanting to help him get to a doctor when he has the suds, and she helps SpongeBob to deliver a Valentine's Day gift to Patrick. In Texas, Sandy's homesick, and she decides to leave, but immediately comes back upon hearing Patrick insult Texas. SpongeBob and Patrick have a party planned for her at the Krusty Krab, so they take advantage of this.
You can't say nothing about Texas!
Not realizing their ultimate intentions, Sandy gets more upset and chases them. Thankfully, their plan works. Upon seeing the party, she realizes how much she means to Bikini Bottom and decides to stay. The silver medal of good goes to Mermaid Man. When SpongeBob and Patrick first meet him and his ward, they discovered they're retired and living peacefully. They make multiple attempts to get them out of retirement. The heroes get increasingly annoyed by this, but the plan works, restoring their motivations.
Sea creatures, attack!
Mermaid Man gets a couple of bonus points for asking to give Barnacle Boy extra broccoli, concern for his health. In their second story, SpongeBob wins a conch in a contest that acts like an audible bat signal for Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy. Even when he's completely exhausted by the constant usage of the shell, Mermaid Man always tries to answer the call. Seeing how guilty SpongeBob feels when Barnacle Boy tells him how exhausted they are, Mermaid Man still appreciates SpongeBob giving them something to do. He then offers to take SpongeBob out on patrol. He does agree with Barnacle Boy's plan to ditch him at a diner, but when SpongeBob saves them soon after, he allows SpongeBob to join them once again. Mermaid Man may not be the hero Bikini Bottom deserves, but he's definitely the one Bikini Bottom needs. The bronze medal of good goes to Barnacle Boy. He's just a little less compassionate and patient than his other heroic half. While Mermaid Man was grateful for SpongeBob giving them something to do, Barnacle Boy was much less thrilled by it. He then takes the conch from SpongeBob and tries to destroy it.
Look, Spongy, that ain't no toy.
He's also reluctant at first to have SpongeBob join them on patrol. At the diner, he gets SpongeBob to go to the jukebox to distract him, while he suggests that they ditch him. His saving grace, however, comes after being trapped by the dirty bubble. Upon SpongeBob popping him, the heroes celebrate his actions, and Barnacle Boy voluntarily recognizes him as a hero. He then agrees to have SpongeBob ride with them again. He may not always be as nice as Mermaid Man, but he still has his great moments. Now we have Harold and Margaret Squarepants. They only show up twice, but they deserve acknowledgement. They spend most of their time supporting SpongeBob, picking him up when his house is ruined by nematodes, and supporting SpongeBob at the talent show, despite him simply mopping the floor. If a dog is a man's best friend, then a snail is a sponge's best friend. Next is Gary. Gary has many moments in Season 1 where he shines. One such example comes in the episode Boating School. SpongeBob throws his bike in the dumpster, assuming he's getting his license that day. At the end, Gary appears out of nowhere, showing SpongeBob that he got his bike back for him. He's also rewarded for what happens in Jellyfish Jam. As jellyfish come into SpongeBob's house, Gary isn't happy, and the jellyfish cover him in jelly. Despite this, Gary finds a way to calm them down by repeatedly clicking his eyes together, creating a beat for them to dance to. Gary's a really good pet and friend. Following Gary is Larry the Lobster. Like Gary, Larry does not have too many moments in the first season, but the ones he does have are worth mentioning, starting with Rip Pants, particularly the ending. After SpongeBob sings his iconic song, song, Larry comes up to SpongeBob and tells him how righteous his message was. He even asks SpongeBob to sign his pants. In the episode Neptune's Spatula, Larry tries to pull the golden spatula from the grease, but is unable to. After SpongeBob succeeds, Neptune appears, though he seeks out a more likely candidate in his eyes. He eventually comes across Larry. After Neptune claims Larry pulled out the golden spatula, Larry could have easily stolen the credit. Instead, he quickly acknowledges that it was SpongeBob who did it.
Nope, that was SpongeBob.
Larry's depicted to have a good moral compass. Next is the main character, SpongeBob Squarepants. In Tea at the Tree Dome, he saves Sandy from a giant clam, despite never having met her before. In Bubble Stand, SpongeBob teaches Patrick and Squidward his famous bubble art technique. He tries to give Squidward his best day ever in jellyfishing, albeit resulting in Squidward getting injured.
It always seems like Squidward never has time for fun.
In Pizza Delivery, SpongeBob's loyalty to his job is evident as he goes to great lengths to ensure the pizza is delivered. He befriends Plankton in fun to help him become nicer, acts as Pearl's date and the chaperone, and collaborates with Sandy to create a giant Valentine's Day gift for Patrick. In Walking Small, SpongeBob initially does bad things but rectifies them once he realizes he was manipulated by Plankton. He helps King Neptune get a job in Neptune's Spatula despite Neptune's mistreatment. However, there are some instances where SpongeBob's actions are less than ideal. In Ripped Pants, he takes a joke too far and pretends to drown for attention. In Muscle Bob Buff Pants, he mocks a scrawny individual, and in Nature Pants, he neglects his responsibilities to live with Jellyfish. Naughty Nautical Neighbors shows him being nasty to Patrick due to Squidward's manipulation. Additionally, in Texas, SpongeBob orchestrates a plan to lure Sandy back using deception, although it was well-intentioned. Basically, SpongeBob often either causes trouble or does something that unintentionally yields negative results, but he usually has good intentions. He's still very much a good guy, but like anyone else, he isn't perfect. The same can be said for Patrick. The very first moment we see him in the series was him popping up from under his rock to cheer on SpongeBob as he heads towards the Krusty Krab. Several times in the season, he either gives advice or makes sure he doesn't give up. He also helps SpongeBob try giving Squidward the best day ever in Jellyfish. When SpongeBob's house was eaten by nematodes, Patrick offers to let SpongeBob and Gary stay with him, though it's not the most comfortable sleepover. In Nature Pants, he helps Sandy try bringing SpongeBob home from Jellyfish Fields, though he takes things a bit to an extreme trying to capture him. When SpongeBob gets the suds, Patrick tries to cure him, believing that the doctor's office is a terrible place. Again, good intentions, bad advice. After Neptune laughs at SpongeBob and tries to challenge him, Patrick stands up to Neptune on behalf of SpongeBob. He continues this, even after getting zapped multiple times and getting his face shifted to his pants. So Patrick does have some integrity. With all that said, however, there are some not so good things that Patrick does. In Sandy's rocket, Patrick eggs SpongeBob on to go inside said rocket and mess around where they're not supposed to. He does something similar in the episode Hooky. Mr. Krabs has warned SpongeBob about the hooks and what happens if someone is caught by one. Not only does Patrick convince SpongeBob to play on these hooks, but he gets him to leave work by telling him he would just be taking a break. After Mr. Krabs finds them and makes them promise never to do it again, Patrick goes back to doing it again the next day. Remember that Valentine's Day gift SpongeBob made for him? The delivery was delayed because of an attack that drew it off course. Later, when he's talking to SpongeBob and he gets cut off by multiple people walking by to thank SpongeBob for their gifts, Patrick snaps. He throws a guy, goes on a rampage, and destroys a heart costume that kids were having fun with, while saying the famous line, "I defy you, Heartman."
I defy you, Heartman!
Patrick is a good guy. He just has a bad habit of giving bad advice and becoming destructive, but still a great best friend. The last spot in the good section goes to Mrs. Puff. Initially reluctant, she gets in the boat with SpongeBob for her job. She later allows him to take the test again, impressed by his improvement. Though she loses some points when SpongeBob confesses to cheating, she may have allowed it to avoid another crash. Despite this, she forgives SpongeBob when he's sent to the hospital.
Okay, boys, take me away.
In Hall Monitor, Mrs. Puff appoints SpongeBob after considering other students. She reluctantly lets him make a speech and allows him to wear the uniform. However, she questions the consequences, and SpongeBob causes unintentional havoc, leading to her arrest. While she couldn't control his actions, she should have anticipated trouble. Though she makes some questionable decisions, her positive moments and intentions ultimately keep her in the good section. With that said, we now get into more neutral waters. This is the gray area, starting with Pearl. Pearl does a handful of bad things, but she usually makes up for it by the end of the episode. In Squeaky Boots, Pearl's upset at Mr. Krabs and his cheapness of getting her fisherman's boots for her birthday. By the end of the episode, though, she's spending time with him, and they go on a vacation together. character. She really gets the chance to shine in the episode The Chaperone. Pearl's original prom date stood her up. When SpongeBob is suggested, Pearl claims it would ruin her reputation to be seen with him. She does end up taking him, but only when she felt like she had no other options. At first, she doesn't act the best towards SpongeBob at the prom, but she does get better by the end. When SpongeBob hides in the bathroom, she cheers him up. In Scaredy Pants, the fact that she claims her dad is embarrassing her while he actively chokes on an apple is pretty low. Pearl's selfishness does sort of overshadow many of her positive traits. Next, we have King Neptune. When he's trying to find the person who pulled the golden spatula out of the grease, he goes as far as to use some unpleasant words to describe SpongeBob right to his face. Despite seeing how hurt SpongeBob gets each time, he just keeps going. He also loses points for zapping Patrick each time he chimes in, eventually relocating Patrick's face. When SpongeBob accepts his challenge, Neptune wins. At first, he proceeds to call SpongeBob a loser and the audience fools when they don't like his burgers. However, everything changes once he tries SpongeBob's patty.
I think I'd like to try it a second time.
After trying it again, he admits that SpongeBob's cooking is superior and concedes to him. Soon after, we cut to the Krusty Krab, and we see that Neptune humbled himself to the point that he's working under SpongeBob's supervision. Remember, Krabby Patties are made with love and not magic. We can't forget the citizens of Rock Bottom. After SpongeBob is alone, he meets a few interesting people. One stalls his candy bar, one spits up an egg onto him, which hatches into 3 small creatures, and when SpongeBob gets to the window, the guy at the window closes down and leaves him in advanced darkness. But on the other hand, one resident helps him get home with a balloon. Let's talk about the anchovies. They cause a lot of ruckus in the Krusty Krab. Based off Mr. Krabs' reaction before they even entered, this likely isn't the first time something like this has happened. Our final group entry is the Jellyfish from Jellyfish Jam. They're like the anchovies, but a little more vicious. One jellyfish gets attached to SpongeBob and goes back to the pineapple with him. They have a dance party that, according to Squidward, lasts for at least 12 hours. They turn SpongeBob into a disco ball, spray Squidward through the phone, and snap his clarinet in half. When SpongeBob accidentally breaks the sound system, the jellyfish get really angry and violent. Definitely a chaotic entry. Next is Mr. Krabs. It's no secret that he's greedy. In the very first episode, Mr. Krabs gives SpongeBob a seemingly impossible task, expecting him to never return. In Pizza Delivery, Mr. Krabs tasks SpongeBob and Squidward with delivering a pizza, which they have never served to that moment, all because he can make a little extra money. What makes it even worse is that, as it was mentioned by Squidward, it was already after closing time. Mr. Krabs demonstrates his cheapness by giving Pearl cheap boots for her birthday.
Pearl, those are the finest fishing boots available!
Later, he manipulates SpongeBob and Patrick during a treasure hunt and refuses to share the treasure. Despite expressing confidence in SpongeBob, he bets against him. Mr. Krabs also tries to shift the blame to SpongeBob and Patrick when he's confronted by the Flying Dutchman. Surprisingly though, Mr. Krabs actually does several good things to keep him off the evil list. In the episode Pickles, SpongeBob forgets how to make Krabby Patties. Mr. Krabs voluntarily gives SpongeBob the day off, which he would normally hate doing, and he sits with him for literal days until SpongeBob remembers what to do. And he does a lot for his daughter Pearl. And very notably, he's the voice of reason and Hooky, warning SpongeBob and Patrick about the terrible things that can happen when you get hooked. It gets to the point where he devises a plan with the help of Squidward to scare SpongeBob to where he'll never ride on the hooks again. Now, is Mr. Krabs greedy? Absolutely. But in the earliest season of the show, he definitely has a heart. Alright, let's move on to SpongeBob's neighbor, Squidward. A good chunk of Squidward's time in Bubble Stand is spent with him saying mean things to SpongeBob and Patrick, claiming what they're doing is annoying and a terrible idea. After he mocks the technique they use, he successfully blows a giant bubble, but claims he did it without their help. This summarizes Squidward well, as he is a killjoy. However, his most infamous act in Season 1 comes in Fools in April. After being pranked by SpongeBob, Squidward decides to get him back, but he takes it way too far, hurting and humiliating SpongeBob in front of everyone.
It's been nice working here. Thanks for everything.
He's not completely without his redeeming qualities. In fact, there's one reason he doesn't belong in the bad category. In Pizza Delivery, Squidward stands up for SpongeBob when an incredibly rude customer berates him for forgetting his Diet Dr. Kelp, giving the man his pizza on the house. So deep down, Squidward does have a heart. The final entry in the gray area goes to the Flying Dutchman. First appearing in Scaredy Pants, a story is told about him first by Mr. Krabs, who claims that he steals people's souls. When the Dutchman shows up, he confirms this by telling everyone that he's going to do just that. This is all done in the process of terrifying everybody there. Based on what we see, he would have actually gone through with stealing souls if he wasn't spooked by SpongeBob's exposed brain. This would have put him in the evil list, likely at the top spot if he actually did steal someone's soul.
I'm going to steal your soul.
However, he is also saved by the episode Arg. Near the end of the episode, he's woken up by SpongeBob, Patrick, and Mr. Krabs, who are fighting over the treasure. He swoops down and he asks who dug it up. When he's told that it was SpongeBob and Patrick, he actually rewards them each with a gold doubloon from the chest for saving him a lot of digging. That said, we've reached the dark side. These characters are the bad and the evil. Starting off the character is Plankton's computer wife, Karen. In the episode Fun, after SpongeBob's attempt to become friends with him, Plankton slams the door on him and expresses his frustrations. Karen tells him he can get the Krabby Patty by befriending SpongeBob. So Karen is responsible for some of Plankton's evil plans. When Plankton is slipping a little bit and seemingly becoming actual friends with SpongeBob, Karen reminds him of the mission and gets him back on track.
You're forgetting the mission.
Not only does she come up with this plan for Plankton, she tries to make sure he actually carries it out. The bronze medal of evil goes to the Dirty Bubble. He wastes no time with his brief appearance, as he instantly captures the superheroes in his body, laughing at them in the process. It's only when SpongeBob comes outside that they're saved. Wanting to get an autograph, SpongeBob accidentally pops the Dirty Bubble with a pencil, and we don't physically see him again until 2 seasons later. Not to mention that it isn't until season 12 where he's a clean bubble for a little while, so we doubt he'll be anything short of evil in the future. The silver medal of evil goes to Bubble Bass. In Pickles, Bubble Bass sends Squidward flying multiple times, but he's most well known for how he treats SpongeBob. He lies to SpongeBob about the pickles being missing, and he wrongfully gets a free meal for it.
You forgot the pickle!
This sends SpongeBob down a rabbit hole where he forgets how to do most basic tasks. When they face off again later, he tries the tactic again, only to reveal that he was holding the pickles under his tongue both times. It's even revealed that he had someone else's car keys. He then runs off before he has to pay up. He shows up briefly in Fun, where he sits further into the seat when SpongeBob says that he's sitting on his friend. We don't know exactly what triggered the rivalry between them, but what a rivalry it is. The gold medal of evil goes to Plankton. Right from the title card for Plankton, along with its background music, we know Plankton is gonna be trouble. The very first time we see him, he's doing what he'll be usually doing, trying to steal the Krabby Patty, or its formula in many future instances. On SpongeBob's walk home, Plankton tries to befriend him to get a Krabby Patty. Later, he breaks into SpongeBob's house and plugs a device directly into his brain, allowing him to control his every move. He forces SpongeBob to grab a Krabby Patty and bring it to the chum bucket so he can learn its ingredients. In Culture Shock, he once again tries to steal a Krabby Patty during his magic act. Right up until the last few moments of the episode Fun, it almost seems like Plankton has a change of heart, but that just isn't the case. Finally, in Walking Small, he admits to himself that he is small and acknowledges that he needs someone much bigger to help him if he wants to make all the beachgoers leave. He comes across SpongeBob and teaches him how to be assertive, leading him to do some pretty nasty things. He insults people, steals their food, pops their volleyball, cuts a few kite strings, and more. And this was all done for land development. Upon realizing this, SpongeBob reverses everything he did and brings everyone back to the beach. The kindness becomes too much for Plankton, and he scoots away, desperately hoping for something bad.
How long must I suffer this?
These aren't the nastiest things Plankton has ever done when compared to the rest of the seasons of the show, but he quickly establishes his status as a bad guy and solidifies his position as the most evil character of season 1. Karen might have said he's 1% evil, but he milks that 1% for all it's worth.